So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. Yeah, you're taking on the headphones. I switch to German in a minute, but just let me welcome you, everyone here in Berlin on the second day of this Berlin Energy Transition Dialogue. I think more important than ever, dialogue is necessary, and dialogue about climate action is even more necessary. As you hear by the name climate action, it's called climate action because it demands action. So it's not called climate sitting and wait. That's what we're here for, to discuss the best solutions and then come to action. This is the important thing and this is the meaning of this gathering. Sehr geehrte Damen und Herren,
ladies and gentlemen,
ich freue mich wirklich sehr.
It's really a very great pleasure to welcome you here to the second day of the Berlin Energy Transition Dialogue. So many ministers, so many state secretaries, so many representatives of commerce, of industry, and of civil society, that really all you can do is make a mistake if you start introducing everybody by name. So therefore, please permit me just to concentrate on those who will be speaking after me and welcome in particular. And that's, I'm not trying to leave anybody out or say anybody's more important than anybody else. This is a family meeting of the community, which sees itself responsible for working on climate action. And so please excuse any formal faux pas on my part. We're in a family, we're in a community, and we can work without hierarchies. But I do want to mention four people.
It's a great honor to have the appointed president of COP28 with us today, Lieber Sultan Al-Jaber. Dear Sultan, thank you very much for making it to Berlin and all the success that is possible for the coming COP28. Sehr geehrte Heike Bergmann, liebe Mrs. Tan,
Ms. Tan,
sehr geehrte Damen und Herren,
ladies and gentlemen, dear friends,
wir sind gut da drin, wir Politikerinnen und
we politicians are, we leaders as we call ourselves sometimes, are really good at selling change as something positive. You don't have many political campaigns or debates in which you say, elect me or like me, because I'm not going to do anything. In a room like this one, in the Federal Foreign Office, in the political debate, change is linked with hope. That's the buzzword. But we can't forget that change usually also challenges people, that people's habits are questioned, and that interests and power relationships are readjusted. That means that new things arise, new fields of business arise, new business cases arise, but logically, this also means that other things come to an end and disappear. Now, since time has moved on so far, and since the international community, including my country, Germany, has not managed to get onto the path to attain our goal, this contradiction is exacerbating between the general area where you discuss programs and adopt programs and say how great you are at having achieved something, but in reality haven't achieved enough, haven't been determined or resolute enough. If we're honest, and we should be honest at this conference, then there are three areas where we're particularly challenged. And each of these areas itself, on its own, would be an extreme challenge. But all three together make the tasks we're facing together really a task of historical dimensions. The first challenge is that We're no longer talking about abstract programs, about funding, about general changes. But given the urgency, we have come to a point where the way people live, their environments are already affected. And to give you an insight in the German debate, Germany, last year, before we stopped it, Germany funded the installation of gas heating systems until last year. Now, if we turn back and look at 2022, when Russian gas supplies came to a halt, and the European continent and Germany really came to the verge of a deep-rooted energy crisis, if you see that this country was still not only permitting funding of fossil energies, but also promoting that, that is really hard to grasp. In fact, it's impossible to explain how you can be so stupid. Now we're changing that. And the debate is tough, it's critical, because change directly impacts people's lives. That will be the same in your countries. When we talk about transport, about the future of traveling by car, about heating, about the way people live their lives, these are not political planning games. These are, but in view of the urgency, this debate really is affecting people's realities quite immediately. And it is necessary and difficult. We need both patience and understanding for the fact there are going to be tough debates. All the questions about social justice, about transitional periods, about participation in projects are justified, and all of them need answers. But because there are questions, and because the contradiction between change and willingness to change is so manifest, we cannot stop and just look with astonishment at the problems, but we need to tackle them. And for too long, we have failed to solve problems out of fear about difficult debates. Now, if we are political leaders and do not lead, do not show leadership, then we will fail in our task. The fact that debates are difficult is no justification for not conducting them, not engaging them, and staying with old patterns of behavior. Secondly, all the technologies, all the changes which we need lead on the industrial side, not only on the personal side, but on the industrial side, to changes as well. Companies have to change their fields of business, their methods of production will change, from cars to steel to energy. Craftsmen, tradesmen will have to retrain. They will learn different technologies and forget old technologies. That also has dramatic repercussions for regions. And new opportunities will develop, new fields of business will develop for other regions. Now, you can explain this well in economic terms. I'm fully convinced that our economies overall will benefit from our taking this path of a green industrial production, of green energy production. That overall the economies will prosper and benefit from it, that it will generate more affluence and prosperity through climate action, but that does not mean that some regions will not have to take a second place. They may lose out a bit, and therefore, on the global economic map, we can see competition between regions of those who are most resolute, most determined to press ahead with the development of hydrogen industry, with the production of electrolyzers, or solar panels, or wind turbines, or batteries, or semiconductors. who has access to critical minerals and raw materials. Now, for climate action, that is good. The question is no longer which form of production is the right one. This question has been answered over the last 2 years. It will be green industry which shows the leadership we need. But the competition between the regions, which is good for climate action, also means that we have a competition between regions, and in the course of this competition, if we're honest, there will be shifts between our continents and regions, and the gloves will be off between them. Gloves are off is fine, but unfair fights are not fine. And therefore, part of this conference will also look at what rules, what fairness do we give ourselves so that we can compete together to develop the best, most efficient technologies and methods of production. And Germany has set up the Climate Club for this. It was proposed the Climate Club for this. Basically, it's a continuation of this dialogue at state level. Those countries which see themselves as pioneers, which want to contribute, which want to feed in ideas, which want to show ways forward to engage in climate action, are heartily welcome to join the Climate Club. We started with the G7, and now there are a lot of other countries which are getting on board, and also we want to set this up before COP28 and have this feed this inclusive approach to climate policy into the system, and I hope this will feed in for the multilateral debate in the WTO, in the UN, in COP events, in order to ensure that certain rules for a level playing field are set up. And the third point in the background to this conference is the geopolitical relevance of this conference. And I try to talk about the challenges for the individuals, for consumers, for the people, and about the challenges for industry facing competition, which overall is good, but which of course represents a challenge to individual regions which we need to balance out. The biggest challenge is energy policy. Has always been energy policy, if we're honest. And this is particularly true because we don't always want to believe it. Energy policy has always also been interest-driven policy, and thus power politics. Over the last 3 decades, we have developed an outlook for economic and energy policy which said there is a market and it's free of political interests. It's organized on basis on criteria of efficiency, and where the most efficient production takes place, that's where production will take place, and where the innovation takes place, that's where the processing will take place. And these are market-based processes, market-led processes, and basically is a market economy, so everybody will benefit. If that ever was the case, it has not been true over the last few years, because energy policy has always been security policy, and security policy has become geopolitics, interest-led politics, power politics in the last few years. So if the world wants to become climate neutral, this has massive repercussions for the strategic structure. Which countries produce what energy? What trade relations are used by these forms of energy? What dependencies arise? What partnerships arise? If it goes badly, this will mean that not trade and market-based principles lead us, contribute. Rather, this will split the world into spheres of interest which are driven by economic and energy policy conflicts. That would be the bad solution. I say with what we're experiencing in Europe, that would be awful. If it goes well, We will use the changes in energy policy not only to decarbonize, but also to build up a new network of partnerships, of political mechanisms which balance out things so that ultimately we all trade and negotiate together. That is the third aim of this conference, and I invite you cordially to work on this with us. Now, I've mentioned three main areas of problems which are presenting challenges for the political debate in Germany and Europe. I want to close with a simple and simple confirmation that the biggest challenge and the biggest danger is also geopolitical. The biggest challenge is to neglect climate action. We say, and we say climate protection in Germany, but we're not protecting the climate. The climate doesn't need protecting because the climate doesn't care whether it's 1.5 or 4 degrees. The climate is the climate, and when people have gone, the humanity is gone, the climate will readjust. What we are doing is protecting ourselves, protecting people, the people who have voted for us, the people who trust us, or are skeptical about us. People mean humanity. The point of protecting the climate is having the right political and climate policy action to engage in climate action, to have a democratic, liberal, trust-based coexistence of people, to protect people and thus to show political strength in the interest of liberty and self-determination. That is the task of climate protection, climate action. It's not in other people's interest and our own interest to press ahead with climate action. I believe that COP28 will be one of the crucial COP meetings, and with all respect, Mr. de Sultan, in view of what we've done in the UAE, I have to say what you and your CV as the manager of an oil company started and now president of COP, it's really strong narrative of the transformation through which we're going now from a fossil energy world economy to a decarbonized world economy. I regard that as a big advantage, that your CV, your resume, brings you into this narrative, and I think it's a great honor and pleasure that you're with us in Berlin. Thank you for all comers, and I wish everybody a very successful conference. Thank you.